Hello everyone, Ted Fletcher, FMS. I'm going to show you an example of if you ever run into having to roll a Toshiba RemotEye card back to a earlier version, depending on what came in. This card, what I'm about to show, is loaded with version 1.16, and I have an application where I have to have a very old version, the 103 beta, loaded onto it. So here we go. First thing, if you've ever logged into the card for a first time, you'd want to have your IP and username password. I'm just going to enter in my information. I've already been in this card a few times. So my DHCP server gave it an address of 192.168.1.101. The default IP address, if you've never plugged that card into a network, it should be set to 192.168.1.168. Now, if someone had plugged into this card at one time, changed something around between the IP, username, password, your best bet is to go in through the USB port. There's a little USB mini from the front plate of the unit. Just plug into that, and then you can get inside the unit and do what you need to do here. So I'm using this for training videos. Count is admin, and then my super secret password of password. Click on OK. Typically the utility tools anywhere from 5 to 10 seconds in order to discover the connection. Once we're good, the status light should change green. And there it goes. Change green. All right, so if you had a bunch of these units, then you'd have to identify the MAC address. If you slide the card out of its little cradle, there should be a sticker on top of the network jack and EMD jack that will call out the MAC address of this controller. Here we can see it's running 1.16. So here I want to roll the firmware back. So I'm going to click on the select, because if I don't select, you can kind of see if I click on this, it just doesn't do anything. So you got to select this. Now that we selected that, we can click our folder and you can see it highlights when we mouse over. I'm going to select the firmware file. And click on open. Now that we have all that set in place, I'm going to click on the upgrade, even though we're going backwards. And here it realizes we're going backwards. So it's going to give you a warning prompt. If this card has already been configured, I've run into this multiple times. You can roll the firmware back, but then you'll probably get blocked out of your username, password, trying to update your protocol settings. So you pretty much have to redo the card from scratch as far as doing a factory reset. So here we're going to click on OK because I have to have it at that 103. If everything's communicating, we should start to see this increase. If something is wrong, it'll kick back an error message. There it goes. So for anyone not aware, if you ever dealt with these RemotEye 4s in the early generation of the card, they had 103 beta, 104, and then when they came out with version 105, a bunch of registers, maps, and the Modbus side were added in the middle. So if you had a template, previous systems running the firmware, it will actually go backwards on you or you have to roll the card backwards in order to have your register map line up. So here it says that at 192.168.1.101, upgrade successful. So I'm just going to check real quick. Typically when these cards reboot, I've always noticed they're usually unresponsive for usually around 30 seconds. Just going to go 192.168.1.1. Should have held my IP. Hey, it did. So it's clicking, going through. You said I've just run into multiple times if I try to access the card too quickly after going through and redoing something, I typically can't get into it. So I'm going to hit browse. So here, because we went back to that earlier version, here's where it's showing login and first time setup. This is where I've never gotten this to work correctly, but we'll give it a shot. Toshiba, all uppercase, and then admin, all uppercase. Login first time. Well, it actually worked. Wow, look at that. Okay, well, I guess this is the first time for everything. Username. I'm going to put in my username. I'm going to put in my super secret password. I'm not putting this card in this example back onto a network. So I'm just going to do those. Click next. And then here, I'm going to lock this card into what the factory default is supposed to be. So by default, out of the box, 192.168.1.168. We'll leave all those. IPv6. I'm just going to, I guess, leave that set to automatic because we're not actually going to set it. Boot P, DHCP. Nope. We want to take that out. Telnet. Leave that set to disabled. And then SSH v2. All right. We're going to hit finish. Need to log back in. So here it's going to start searching because I just changed the IP address around. So I'm going to go back over to my, get the one I already had open. So here we can see that .101 is not responding. I'm going to go open. I'm going to go 168. There we can see it is responding. Same type of thing. Anytime you reboot these cards or go through, it typically takes a few seconds. So that's where I usually don't touch it for 30. So I'm just going to drag that off to the side. I'm going to change this here. I'm going to change that to 68. There's the login. So from here, I'm going to put in my username. And I'm going to put in my password. Do the sign in. And this card is by itself. I don't actually have a downstream UPS plugged into it. That's where right now it's not resolving to anything, and it's just showing zeros and all the data set because it's not actually plugged into a downstream UPS. It's just sitting by itself. That way I can do these examples. So not too often that you would have to go backwards, but depending on different software-based applications, like I said, within Modbus, 103 beta, 104 formal, the registers were pretty much in the same lineup. When 105 firmware was developed is when some Modbus registers were added into the middle. And then a lot of your analog data, all those data points got shifted down. So that's where if you were to replace an old card with a new card and you start seeing 655, 35 data values on your analog sets when you're looking at it, more than likely your culprit is you were using an older version of firmware on the previous card. That's how the Modbus register map was configured. And when you put a new card in place, everything gets shifted out of whack. So then you start getting all those bogus 65535 values being displayed. So, well, I hope that was helpful. We can be of any support. Feel free to reach out to FMS, and I hope you have a great day. Thank you.